my God, I can work like as a valet. Ooh, I want to do that. They hired me, gonna be fun. So the very first thought of like doing valet came to me when I was a bellman at a hotel in Miami. I was interacting with valet guys all the time. So I was like taking out luggage, and valet guys always like sat in like those expensive cars, and I was like, ooh, I want to do that. So I always had that jealousy about like, I want to be valet. I don't want to be bellman. So yeah, after that, I moved to LA, and literally I had no idea what I'm gonna do, and so I went around just like on a Sunset Strip, just walking to any places like, hey, are you hiring? And then one time I went to this hotel. They said fill out the application, so I did, and they hired me as a temp, like temporary, kind of a floater. So like, hey, you can work only like maybe 2 days a week. And for me, it was like, oh my God, I can work like as a valet. So that's how it all started. The only thing they asked me if I can drive manual transmission. And I said I can do that. And then they asked me about my experience, and I said, I had some experience here and there. I drove some cars for this like place, and that's pretty much it. And they hired me. They didn't ask me for any other proof that I can drive. Let's say this, I had more confidence in me than experience. So I could drive, but I didn't really pay attention to how safe am I. I just wanted to like learn and be better. I went through a period of time where I had to like just kind of watch other, like almost shadowing, like watch how other guys do it, and then I followed their car, like how they parked, and after like a week or two, I was just driving cars on my own. One guy, he was really cool, and we kind of became buddies, and we were always kind of running together downstairs and just like having a chat and stuff. But the other guy who was supervisor, he didn't like us. He was always talking shit to me. I got to be there permanently. I was backing up it was a Ferrari. It was one of those like cars, and so when I was backing up, I bumped into the wall, and so I got the warning, right? I got one warning, and then I think I had another car that I was driving, and by that time I was like valeting for 7-8 months, maybe 9 months. So I was pretty confident, and so I was just driving it fast in the garage, and then I started backing it up into the spot, and it was 2 columns, and for some reason I just did it like a fast turn, and I hit the column. And granted, it was some kind of Dodge Caravan, but I hit the column, and I was so afraid. At that time, I was like, oh my God, I want to lose this job. So I literally drove off and drove to the lower level, and it was like 5 levels. I drove to the very lowest level to like kind of escape and see if I can do something about it. And then 2 minutes later, our boss comes down. He's like, Deniss, what are you doing? Come on, what are you doing? And I had to like say, I'm sorry, I didn't want to lose the job. And so, they let me go. I think I had nice experience with most of the bosses. Some of them, they went through running, being like attendant, and just like kind of slow working their way to becoming a manager or running a company. They were paying us under the table, and it was good because you could get cash the same night and walk away and you didn't have to claim anything, and if you don't have any papers, you can just like come and work for them. And they were risking their license, their business license, so it's a risk for them, but they were doing it. I think there are quite a few undocumented or illegally working valet people here. I think Hispanic, they think because they've been here for such a long time, they deserve their whatever industry they're in. So it's like they're established there, so they don't want any new blood coming in. I think it's I mean, they're not good drivers, honestly. Hispanic people, they're not really good. I don't think they're good drivers. They're not meant to be valet. In my opinion, they're great as gardeners. They're great as leaf blowers. I mean, they're great at a lot of things. But valet driving cars is not something that they naturally are, meant for. So I think they should just should just give up that spot and just give it up to the Europeans. One guy from Mexico, he supposedly he stole some trivial things from the car. Like it was like a really trivial. I can't remember what it was, but he just started denying it, and he didn't really give us a chance to redeem him. Anyways, that's one thing that I remember. One guy, he was new, Ralphie, I think his name. Yeah, Ralphie. He was working with us. I've seen him maybe a few times, not too many, but somebody saw him pocketing the tips, and like he pocketed like a couple of bucks, and then we confronted him, and he just denied it, and then I haven't seen him since. Roman, right? When he came, first time I saw him, he looked like he was a very cool person to talk to. He was like passionate about movies. He talked a lot. Like he was a really passionate guy. But I think his common sense just disappeared once he sat in the car. He was a really cool dude to learn from, to what not to do, because he did things that you would never think that a person would do. For example, one time I remember working with him, and he was working this event in East LA somewhere. It was a big party. It was a lot of cars. I think it was 10, 12 valet working there. And they didn't have enough spaces on the street to park. So we had to use neighbors' driveway, and also neighbors. It was like a parking lot where it was still under construction, so it wasn't even paved. It was just like a dug out, like literally sand and dirt and rocks. And so they said, like, you can park if you can anywhere, but just be careful, of course. And so I was running after the car, and then I see Roman is getting BMW, and it's like a sports BMW, so it's pretty low. And I see him; he's going through this like ditch. He just goes inside of this hole where there is nothing like to grab on. The tires cannot grab on the surface because there's nothing. It's like sand and rocks, and so he literally gets stuck there. He tries to like drive out, and the wheels are spinning. It's spinning and spinning, and I'm like, Roman, what are you doing? How did you even get there? And so we had to get him out of there and get this car out because the client was waiting. And he was angry. A lot of celebrities came. Sylvester Stallone, Mark Wahlberg, the guy from The Pianist, he came later that evening. But the thing is, we were expecting maybe 35, 50 maybe at the most. And when we came, it was actually it was a dead-end street, so it went all the way to the last house, and then there's no way to park. So we only had one street to park. The house was somewhere in the middle. And when we came, all of this catering and people who like work in the house, they were all parked along the street. So pretty much they took the half of the spaces, and so we had to park on the rest of the street. So we had to utilize the whole driveway, and then we just started receiving cars, 50, 60 cars, 70, and so the cars kept coming, and we were like, we have no freaking spaces to park. So we had to like double park, we had to put cars on top of the cars. And then we started to refuse, like we couldn't accept any more cars. And on top of that, this Beverly Hills patrol parking enforcement came. Beverly Hills is notorious for their permits, how they operate. It's, first of all, you have to apply for a permit, and they ask you to come in and pick up those signs that you have to put on the tree or the post. And if there's nothing, you have to put it somewhere. You have to put them physically. It's like a physical sign, and they give you this roll of the rope, the whole roll of rope, and you have to cut the things and put it through the holes of the sign and put it around the tree. And it's so antiquated, this way of like putting signs physically. And on top of that, they charge you your arm and leg. You literally like pay like $300 for one event that you're gonna do like 4 hours, and then you're done. And they are very they try to check on you when you're working. So they come and they see if you have permits. If you don't have permits, then they can fine you, and they can just literally revoke the license so you cannot work in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills, it's all about money, because they really, I don't know if they do it by pretense of like, yeah, we're gonna make sure that everybody has no criminal record or whatever, but I believe they charge you because they want to get money. So it's the whole, like, Beverly Hills is the worst place to work. It's easy to hit a car if you don't pay attention, and you don't pay attention when you get tired. I got in the car. It was a Range Rover. It was a new model, so they just released them, and it had a knob instead of a stick that you automatic transmission, but it was a knob that you have to turn, and it was really bright. The sun was shining, and I turned the knob in a direction of drive, which is driving forward instead of rear reverse, and I pressed the pedal, and the car moved, but it was on the brake, I believe. That's why I did go forward, and I was like, okay, let me just go and put it back. And for some reason, I put it back again in drive, and I pressed the gas, and the car went. It released the brake, and it hit the car in front of it, which was Mercedes. And the Mercedes just went through the flower beds, almost got into the house in a window, and it stopped right before getting to the house. My stomach dropped because I was like, oh my God, did that just really happen? Because now on top of that, the owner of the house, they really kind of had high expectations. Like, they really liked me, and I was like, I just went from like being the favorite guy to like being the lowest. And I felt bad because I was like, I didn't really want to do that to them, but okay, it happened. So yeah, I felt, okay, now I have to face it. So I came out and I I try to calm them down, but she was so upset. She couldn't even she couldn't believe it. She was like almost like in shock. I think it was close to 15 grand. Yeah, $15,000. If the valet would have to pay for that damage, you wouldn't have any valet to be working because they all be bankrupt.
And how many accidents did you have?
So, if I count that Range Rover, then this Jaguar, then those two cars. Look, I've probably had at least dozen. Valet, most of the salary is based on the tips. If you work at a restaurant, especially at a restaurant where, you get all kinds of people who, they just come to have good time and just like, they're not really worried about money. So sometimes you get 20, 40, it could be any amount of tips that you can get. And it literally depends on the night. If you have a great night, you can get 200 some plus money, plus in tips. I made the most probably, I don't know, $180, $200 because I was working on my own. So if you I worked at a location in a restaurant where it was one guy or they hired another guy to help out, but sometimes I was working on my own. And when you're working on your own, you get all the tips, so you don't have to split it in two. You do more work, of course, but you get, rewarded for that. And I liked it because I like to work. I probably parked thousands of, maybe 10,000, if not more. But females, usually they just give you a smile and then like, thank you, and just leave. Guys are they're more willing to give you some money, some cash. But yeah, females usually not as big tippers. Okay, in general, women celebrities, they probably not gonna tip you because they think of themselves as they're hot shit. So Julia Roberts, she came on this Volvo, and it was all beat up, kind of a very old Volvo, and she ran inside the house. She was wearing glasses, but we could recognize her because her smile, like you could see like Julia Roberts from a mile away. But she came out like not long after that, and she wanted to bring her car and actually take a baby seat from her car and put it in her babysitter's car. And she started complaining that the car was too hot and the AC wasn't on and she couldn't like sit in the car. So she complained and she said that you guys should be better than that. Anyways, she didn't leave any tip and she just left. Natalie Portman, I think she's a little diva, honestly. She was not very pleasant, and she didn't have anything to say to us. Essentially, they don't have to tip us, but it comes down to being a person of like, are you really like the person who you think you are? Like, are you saying that you in Hollywood you stand for this equality and all those things, but when it comes to real situation, you can't even like give us a little bit of money? It's bullshit. It's nothing. It's nothing. Whatever the words they're uttering from their mouths is it's a bunch of garbage because they're not living up to whatever they're saying. Because I literally had bigger tips from the guys who I never seen in my life. They just like regular dudes. One guy, he was just driving some kind of it was like a Toyota or something, and he tipped us $20, and I felt like, oh my God, this guy is just probably going out of his way to give us this money, and he's driving this car. And some of the celebrities, like Tyrese, one time, I brought his car and he gave me shit. He literally didn't look at me, and he just like sat in the car and just took off. Black people, they usually tip 0 unless they want to show off and they give you 20. On the opposite side though, I drove this British actress. She was really cool because I had conversations with her, and she was really like loose and be able to talk about like, hey, do you think like why do you want to be an actor? Like what are you? And she was like literally expressing like she thinks that you are either born an actor or you're just not an actor, because some people are trying to be an actor. And so we had those conversations with her, anyways, she gave me like at one time she gave me $60. So there are a few people who she's not like really in Hollywood. Because she's from Britain, and so she lives in a little different kind of area. So, but Hollywood people who like really in Hollywood, and they're saying we want everybody to be equal. That's not true.
Have you ever felt embarrassed by doing this job?
I think I've one time actually working on Mulholland Drive, that event. That this guy he used to throw this event. A lot of girls coming. What do you call those? For hire, girls for hire. And I had one guy that I knew. He came there, and I almost like didn't want to talk to him because I felt like if he sees me doing valet, he, So there are certain times that I felt that it's a little bit below, but I think it's yeah, I don't know. It's something that I think it's personal to everybody. Like to me, like coming here and doing valet, people from like my country would be like, dude, amazing. I think in Europe they have different mentality about that. I think they can do any job, and somebody who's doing like the lowest job, the most menial job, they're still respected as a person contributing in different way, in certain way. But here in America, I think they have more of like a hierarchical mentality. Like you consider to be like nobody, so it's more, there's more judgment about it. But yeah, that sometimes you get in the mind of that. Girls don't really care. Maybe in the beginning, maybe after a while, if you're valet and they starting, dating you, they might say, "Hey, dude, maybe you should get a better job." But I don't think my experience. I didn't have any bad experience with being valet. There's nothing bad about doing valet. I think valet it's a great job. It requires certain skills that you need to acquire, and that's it. So Mercedes CLS 550, Audi, I'd say S7, and Bronco. The worst car. Prius. Bel Air. I'd say Hollywood Hills. Narrow streets, and they have the twists and turns, and the kind of the hill, the angle, steepness of the road is so high. So literally, you have to be so good at getting control of a car that if somebody's coming from this side and you're coming out, you have to have certain like knack to not crash it. 1 out of 3. Adam Sandler, he gave me $100. Keanu Reeves, literally he emptied his pockets. He gave this guy who drove him about $240+ or something. So I'm in certain locations when it was super hot outside. It was hard to sit in the car because when you at 100 degrees heat, dry heat in California, you sit inside the car. Even though you only maybe gonna be there for 1 minute, it's so like it's so hot that you can't. You literally have to like roll down the windows and crack AC to actually have this air coming to you. So that was one of the uncomfortable things I remember. Oh, that one joke is like, hey, where's my Bentley? Like, oh, where's my Ferrari? You bring me a red Ferrari today? And I'm like, no, you didn't bring the Ferrari. Yeah, that joke is like, it's like every time you hear it, you think this guy is full of shit. I'd say when they cannot find a brake, like a handbrake or something, they're just trying to drive and they're like, oh, what's wrong? And you always like, oh, the handbrake. It's like, oh, that's right. Not knowing how to start or take off in their own car is it's just so stupid.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how good of a driver you think you are?
My opinion, I'd give 9.5.
On a scale from 1 to 10, an average driver in Los Angeles, how good you think he or she is?
It would be great if they would get to like 5. Some people, they don't even get into 5 because you see either cars that are driving so slow that it's like they're just like in your way.
How many times have you caught yourself thinking, I hate this job?
No, I think working valet brought me a lot of great experiences. Having camaraderie with guys was more important to me. Valet is probably the most easiest job for the amount of fun that you get. Just coming to a car and you just run into a car and like you have the key and it's a Mercedes, for example. You're like, okay, I know this car is gonna be fun, and so you sit inside and you just drive. And that moment from when you drive the car before you reach the customer, that's the funnest moment that like you can have. I had a choice to work as a waiter or valet, and I chose valet every time because I worked as a waiter once, and I just gave up. Like after a few hours, I was like, this is not something I want to do. So I think valet it treated me good.